All right, one last thing about AI. Then
artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
On the same note here, BBC.com AI-driven robot boat Mayflower crosses the Atlantic Ocean. A crewless ship that's designed to recreate the Mayflower's historic journey across the Atlantic 400 years ago has crossed the ocean, project bosses have said.
Remember, the way they had this in the headlines a few months ago was ghost ship to travel the Atlantic. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah. So they completed the task, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Long story short, it's just a boat. It's a fancy futuristic boat. No people on it, completely controlled by computers, has re-followed the route of the Mayflower, which in the U.S. has some very interesting undertones. There's the Mayflower Society, who are sort of they're not a secret society, but they are very elitist and don't really fit in to today's. They used to be very elitist, very, I don't know, just honored society. These are people who allegedly directly descend from people who came over on the Mayflower, which, 2022 is not a great time to be bragging about that. So you haven't really heard much about them recently.
And then the whole thing just based on IBM technology. IBM, not the greatest history, especially if you're talking about the Nazis.
Yeah, because it's built machines for the Nazis. But I think this is an interesting messaging tool because, of course, the Mayflower Society, any connection with the Mayflower, you have colonialism, you have white supremacy, you have honestly, you have the sort of fictional. Not that the boat was fictional, but it ties into the fictional folklore of the United States, which most of our sort of American fairy tales of this country were made up in the 50s. So there's a lot of that. But I think there's a message here, which is, hey, white supremacist Mayflower elites, you're old news. You're not the most important Mayflower. Instead, now that we have AI and technology, that will inspire equity, and it's got all this kind of wokeness tied up in it, and it's kind of intense because it's like it's equitable. We have a new Mayflower that is good for society, and it's a robot with no humans. It is completely equitable because there's no humans involved.
Yeah. Well, we pointed out the last time we reported on this when they're talking about the plans to do it, how the sort of conquest undertones of you talk about the white, the woke, or whatever, the settlers and whatever, but also this notion that it was the Europeans that found the New World, right? And now you have the AI traveling that same path, as if AI is sort of the conquerors discovering the new
humanity.
World. Yeah. So it's a very interesting sort of esoteric signaling going on here, I think, with AI, especially in the recent days with all that stuff with the Lambda and all that. So,
yep. And we're just tracking the trends, folks.
Yep.
Pay attention, and you can see how the mass use of psychological operations, both in tech and in communications, are guiding the future culture of the globalized society.